Hello and welcome to Kickoff with Casey. This is going to be the first edition after they've given us the college football playoff bracket. That's going to be most of what we talk about today. I know that there were obviously some big games last week. There just weren't as many games, and we don't have a lot of games coming up this week. So there's not too much actual football to talk about, but there's plenty of other stuff that we can go over. We'll start with I know that I felt like after writing this down, the Indiana-Ohio State game was probably the big outcome of the week. But we're in the South. We're going to talk about the SEC first. UGA dog walked Alabama the whole time. I got to see part of that game. I think I missed the first probably 5 or 10 minutes of it, just trying to make my way over to a TV. But I got to watch the last 3.5 quarters, and honestly, the score is closer than the game was. I don't think Alabama really deserved the one touchdown they did get. Indiana took down Ohio State 13-10. Kurt Signetti, way to go. By the way, last week my log of the week was Ohio State, so I know I'm wrong. I got that wrong, but those are the ones we like to get wrong. And then also Duke beating Virginia. That keeps Virginia out of the college football bracket. So that's what I've got for some of the major news. There's plenty of other games. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about them. All right, we're going to start off with the SEC game because that's what I watched more of. That SEC championship was never close. It was never in question. Ty Simpson was running for his life the entire time. Alabama looked completely outmatched, basically in every area of the game. I mean, special teams, defense, offense, it didn't matter. Georgia was more ready for the moment. I think, and I thought all year long that Georgia was the better team between the two. I know Alabama won the regular season matchup. But I'm pretty sure I said on this show then that I still felt like Georgia was the better team. And I still believe that to be true. Georgia just completely dominated every facet of that game. And like I said, even their special teams, I mean, there was another area where they kind of took advantage of Alabama. A blocked punt. Branch had a nice return. There's just so much that Georgia was doing better. Again, the defensive line for Georgia looked more dominant. The defensive backs covered better for Georgia. Gunnar Stockton doesn't have to be insanely good. He doesn't have to be crazy at quarterback for Georgia, especially when their defense and special teams was as good as it was on Saturday. Gunnar Stockton can do his best Jake Fromm impression and hand the ball off 45 times a game. And Georgia's going to be hard to beat. I think that Georgia and Ohio State are kind of the two teams in my mind that kind of set up as 1 and 2. I know Indiana won that game last week. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't rooting for Indiana. I'd love to see Indiana do well in this college football playoff. I mean, Jacob Rodriguez is my favorite non-Tennessee player in the country. So, I mean, Texas Tech, I'll root for them a little bit. I like the Oregon, I almost called them costumes. I like the Oregon uniforms. I'd love to see Ole Miss do something here because of the whole Lane Kiffin thing. He's not there anymore. After Elko's little hissy fit, I'm out on A&M. I wouldn't mind seeing Oklahoma do something. I'd love to see Alabama lose again, 28-7, first game. Get them out. I forget who they're playing against. Oklahoma. That would be perfect. Miami kind of snuck in there at the end. I want, and listen, the James Madison and the who was the Tulane. If James Madison and Tulane because James Madison's got Oregon and Tulane's got Ole Miss. There's a lot of different things. We need to talk about this later. There's a lot I got to talk about. Well, I need to figure out a way to make it sound like a lot. We got to get to 30 minutes today with not much football. But there's plenty to get to later, and I'll get to that. But to me, right now, it feels like I know Ohio State just lost. I still think Ohio State is better than Indiana. And I've always thought that Georgia was better than Alabama this year. And I feel like those two are probably going to be on a collision course for. It won't be the final game because Indiana and Texas Tech are in the top part of the bracket, but Georgia and Ohio State could meet in the semifinals. That could be fun. That could be a really fun game. But kudos to Indiana. And man, Fernando Mendoza, I think is his name. I forget his name. He got walloped. First play of the game too. It was like 7 seconds into the game. And he got absolutely smashed. And I was really afraid that his younger brother was the backup quarterback. I thought that was really cool. But he obviously wasn't ready for the moment. I think if the younger brother ends up playing the whole game, Indiana probably doesn't win that game. But, and here's the bad part. You can blame Eric for this. I was over at his house watching the game. Tennessee had a basketball game on Saturday night. If Tennessee's playing, I don't care if it's water polo. I'm going to watch Tennessee over everything else. And so we were trying to go back and forth. I watched a really poor effort against an Illinois basketball team, but I did try to see what I could out of the Indiana game. I ended up having to watch some highlights when I got home that night. And Ohio State really seemed to have a lot of momentum early. Like I said, they put Mendoza on his back early. I mean, it looked bad. I was afraid he was going to miss some time. He ended up coming back, I think, later that drive. I don't even think he missed the rest of the first drive. But kudos to Indiana. I think everybody outside of Columbus, Ohio, was rooting for Indiana to win that game. And maybe Ohio State's got a few fans around here. And it is a big university and a large fan base. But when you look at I guess America in total, people don't like to watch winners continue to win. Everybody kind of likes the underdog story. And Indiana, in my mind, is still the underdog. They're the only team. I don't want to say the only team undefeated. I think Tulane's probably got a loss. I think James Madison's got one. But realistically, I think Indiana's the last undefeated team. You wouldn't look at their resume and think that they're the underdog, but there's a part of me that still kind of feels like Ohio State is the best team and that Georgia's a very close two. But, I mean, I was wrong last week on that lock of the week. I'd love to be wrong again. I would love to be wrong again because I think it'd be great if Madison beats Oregon. I think Alabama's better than Oklahoma, but if Oklahoma beats Alabama, Tulane beats Ole Miss, Miami and A&M, it could be a wash, and both of them are going to lose to Ohio State, so it doesn't matter. But I'm all for chaos. I'm all for the underdog. I still feel like Indiana's the underdog. I like Kurt Cignetti. I like the arrogance that he coaches with. I've watched that Google Me clip probably 10 times over the past few days. And to no choice of my own. I mean, it's just popping up everywhere. And that's what happens when you win. They're 13-0. He said, Google me, and I win. And he's right. I've said those words verbatim on this show before. But when you do what he's done, I mean, you're going to pop up all over social media, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. And he's been everywhere. The clip when he got hired, I mean, it's been everywhere. And kudos to him. Kudos to Indiana. Starts throwing around some money, and they've got some players now, and they're playing football. Number one team in the country. So good for them. Also, Duke beating Virginia actually throws a massive wrench into the whole thing because I want to say Tulane was the bottom team that got in because of that. Madison's the bottom team. If Virginia beats Duke in overtime, Virginia's in the playoff and James Madison isn't. I just don't. It's hard for me. I'm so happy I'm not a Virginia fan. I couldn't imagine being that close and then losing what really feels like a really winnable game. I know Duke's better than they have been in the past. Obviously they just won the ACC championship game, but man, Virginia, it really feels like you let one slip through your fingers. Now, I don't think I don't think Virginia's a team that really could have done much in the bracket. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think we kind of figured out they obviously don't deserve to be in there, and they're not in there now. So maybe they missed a little bit of getting embarrassed like Tennessee did last year against Ohio State. Maybe Virginia missed a little bit of embarrassment, but, I mean, I still kind of feel bad for those fans because they were right there. They had an opportunity to get in and should have been in, would have been in with a win. And they would have kicked James Madison out. Man. Oh, well. We're going to go to our first commercial only because, like I said, today's show is a little bit weird. We're not going to have a top 25 rundown or any of that, but we're going to talk about this bracket here in a minute. We've got some other conference championship games we're going to go over, so make sure you don't go anywhere.
He shoots, and he scores!
Got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Welcome back to Kickoff with Casey. My name's Casey Patrick. We'll move on to the next big conference game, the Big 12 conference. Texas Tech destroyed BYU. I didn't really think it would be that big of a difference between those two teams, and I didn't get to watch a lot of that game either, but I did get to see a little bit of the highlights afterwards. I kind of hoped Texas Tech was better. I thought that they probably would be better, but I didn't think they'd be. I mean, that much better is crazy. I wanted to go back and make sure I wasn't wrong about Indiana being the only undefeated team. Yeah, James Madison's got one loss. That makes me feel better. I just couldn't. It was bothering me. I had to go back and look. But Texas Tech, after I saw them, I thought, well, maybe they're undefeated, but they're not. Just destroyed BYU, 34-7. They have my favorite player in the country, Jacob Rodriguez. I think he's a top 10 linebacker in the draft. Again, they've got a first round bye, but they're going to play the winner of Oregon and James Madison. I really feel like Oregon has got an awesome road to get, I mean, at least to the semifinals. And of course, again, we say that you hate to root against or kind of take anybody out. You hate to act as though you know exactly what's going to happen, but I mean, just conventional wisdom kind of tells us that Oregon probably should beat James Madison. I don't have a line yet for that game, so I don't know what Vegas thinks. But I think Oregon is also the favorite against Texas Tech. I think Vegas would have Oregon as the favorite against Texas Tech. Not by much. 2.5, 3.5 points. Neutral field. Maybe 4.5 points, maybe. But I think Oregon is still going to be the favorite. But, again, Texas Tech, they just keep showing up every week. They play good football. They've got good football players. We'll move on to the American Athletic Conference. Tulane beats North Texas 34-21. I mean, North Texas, again, kind of like Virginia. I mean, you're right there. Your opportunity at a college football playoff spot was right there. Just couldn't pull it out against Tulane. I don't know squat about Tulane. I don't. However, I will say this. They've got Ole Miss, which we're going to talk more about these matchups later. But they've got Ole Miss in the college football bracket, playoff bracket. I'd like to see Ole Miss do well because of Kiffin and leaving in the middle of the night, which I know how that feels. I would love to see Pete Golding and Ole Miss really show something here. I think it would show a lot of heart from the program. I think it would give them a lot of momentum going into the future with Golding as the new coach. But that conventional wisdom I was talking about a minute ago, which I may not have much of, but the conventional wisdom is telling me Tulane's got a really good opportunity here to play an Ole Miss team that's got a lot going on behind closed doors. How many Ole Miss Rebels are going to be at Ole Miss when the season's over? How many are already thinking about moving down to Baton Rouge? How many of the coaches that are there are going to go down to Baton Rouge too? I mean, there's so many unknowns. It's got to be an awful thing to go through as a player. I mean, when you've got the greatest season in program history, and your coach just up and leaves for a division or a conference conference rival. I think Tulane has a real opportunity here for what I would consider to be an upset. But moving on to James Madison, 31-14 over Troy for the Sun Belt. Kennesaw State defeated Jacksonville State 19-15 for Conference USA. Western Michigan defeated Miami of Ohio 23-13 for the MAC. And Boise State took down UNLV 38-21 Mountain West. Is Dan Mullen the coach at UNLV? I was thinking about that a minute ago, and I meant to look it up. Completely forgot. We'll move on. We'll move on and talk a little bit about this bracket. I'm going to talk a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the bracket talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about these teams that didn't get in, and then probably go to our last commercial. And then when y'all get back, we're going to talk about this bracket, and we're also going to talk about the only game of the week we have coming up. But before we do that, Notre Dame, Texas, Vanderbilt are all out. There's a few other teams. Of course, BYU with the loss, they're out there late. Utah, they're 10-2, but those two losses were massive, and I don't think they really showed enough. USC kind of floated around being good there for a while. Arizona coming out of nowhere to finish 9-3. Michigan 9-3. Virginia missing out. Houston missing out. Georgia Tech was, I think, 7-0, 8-0 at one point, and they end up 9-3. A lot of teams there, but the three main ones I really want to talk about here: Notre Dame, Texas, and Vanderbilt. First of all, I felt like Vanderbilt deserved to be in there more than, let's see, 1, 2, maybe 3 teams, maybe 4 teams, maybe 3 teams. I felt like Vanderbilt deserved it more than Texas, and Texas is ahead of them on this final thing. Texas 9-3, Vanderbilt 10-2, and of course Vanderbilt's one behind. I get that the schedule was different, but I'm really glad Texas didn't get in. I don't think they ever deserved a spot. I don't think they ever played well enough. I mean, sure, they ran UTSA out of the building, but it's like, other than that, I mean, and they played some great games against some of the teams. I think they beat Oklahoma. They've got a few other games that they played well, don't get me wrong, but they never looked like a real playoff team. And now I can't really say that much about like Tulane or James Madison. I haven't watched them play it down yet. They may not look like playoff teams either, but I don't feel like Texas ever deserved it. I mean, from the start of the season, that first game against Ohio State, that was one of the most boring games I've ever watched. And I love defense. It wasn't about the defenses being good. It was, Arch Manning's throwing yard darts the whole time. That game was boring. Even Julian Sand wasn't really that great yet, but that was his first start. And I get that it was like early in Arch Manning's starting career, but he had more experience. Either way, I just don't feel like Texas ever really deserved it. I feel like Vanderbilt showed a few. I think they showed a few signs that, maybe they did kind of deserve a playoff spot. They're not going to get one. Next week, we'll talk about some of the other bowl matchups. I held that back on purpose because I knew I would need something to talk about next week other than just the Army-Navy game. But, excuse me, sorry about that. But now the last team that Didn't make it, and they threw a big fit about it. Notre Dame. Notre Dame, it feels, it's going to be hard for me to not sit here and sound like I'm complaining, because that's all they do. That's all they do. They don't have a real schedule. They play USC once a year, usually beat up on ITT Tech and Montana State University for the blind or whatever. I'm so sick and tired of Notre Dame acting like everybody else kind of owes them something. Notre Dame, you owe everybody else a conference. Go get into a conference. Play conference football. This is ridiculous to sit here. Now, here's the thing. If you're Notre Dame and you're out of the college football playoff, I could see where you would sit around and say, "Oh, hey, we deserved a spot," and you would talk about why you deserved a spot. But that's not really why I'm upset, and you know that. I think most of y'all know that. I'm upset because now your entire team has just decided to not play. And I remember for years, there'd be a lot of shows like this, whether it's on national television or somebody's podcast in his grandma's basement. A lot of people talked about, oh, these guys are, they're not going to play in the bowl game. They're going to get ready for the draft or this, that, and the other. And I heard some really disgusting negative things about people that didn't play in their bowl games. I was one of the few people, I loved it when the older guys sat out of a bowl game. I thought it was cool. I remember when Joe Milton sat out of the bowl game and Nico got his first opportunity to play with Tennessee. I was happy about that. And one of the other coaches, I can't remember who it was, one of the coaches said that he didn't mind players sitting out because it gave him an opportunity to see what the younger kids had. So I'm not necessarily, I'm not a hater of people that sat out of these bowl games, but an entire team, an entire program has decided we're not going to play because you didn't do what we wanted you to do. That's the equivalent of I'm going to take my ball and I'm going home. That's exactly what you've done, which is, it's whiny, it's irritating. You could have just went and played another football game. And Jeremiah Love may have sat out. Some of your other superstars may have sat out. Maybe some of your coaches wanted to stay at home. Let them do it. Take the group of guys that wanted to go out there and play one more game with their guys. Let them go out there and play their football game. You've taken one whole opportunity away from somebody that, maybe they don't have much tape. Maybe they wanted to use this opportunity to get to the NFL. I know Notre Dame's always got guys on their roster that are trying to make it to the next level. But you just completely wussed out. You're crying about not getting what you wanted, and so you've decided, I'm just going to go home. I'm taking my ball, and I'm going home. Congratulations. You're going to get what you want. You don't have to play. Nobody's going to make you play. But I am going to judge you silently. Not so silently. I've been yelling it for the past 2 minutes. I'm going to judge you. And I like Coach Freeman. Marcus Freeman, I think he's a great coach. He showed me a lot, especially last year after that loss to Northern Illinois or whoever it was, and being able to, fight his team back into a great spot. I still think he's a good coach. I don't know whose decision this was. I don't know why they think it's a good decision. You couldn't tell me that it was the entire team that decided to go along with this. I just don't believe that. I feel like somebody for the Fighting Irish wants to still play their game, and they're not going to get an opportunity now because, quite frankly, somebody got their feelings hurt. That's what's happened, and it's ridiculous. We are going to go to the last commercial. Y'all make sure you don't go anywhere. When we get back, we're going to talk about this bracket a little bit more in depth, and then wrap the show up. So y'all make sure you don't go anywhere.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
He shoots,
got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
Winning just got closer.
Welcome back to Kickoff with Casey. We're going to talk about this bracket real quick. Just kind of give you a rundown of the way it looks. James Madison and Oregon up in the top. The winner of that will play Texas Tech. Alabama and Oklahoma. The winner of that plays Indiana. That's a really tough road for all three of those teams. It doesn't really matter what the matchups end up being. I think all three of those teams have a legitimate shot to show up at the end. Tulane and Ole Miss, the winner of that will play Georgia. Kind of feel bad for Tulane right there. Miami and Texas A&M, winner of that will play Ohio State. Again, I said this earlier. I think Ohio State wins that game. Who cares? Now, it would be disingenuous for me to sit here and tell you that I think anything about James Madison. I'm going off of, and I've said this a few times now, but conventional wisdom that tells me Oregon has more NIL money. Dan Lanning is a great coach. We know that. And James Madison is another one of these schools that has lost their coach to somewhere else. I wrote all this down last week. I can't remember the names. You'll have to excuse me. But it just feels like Oregon should be the favorite in that one. And I'm thinking like at least 6.5. I mean, that might be like a 9.5 type of a Vegas line. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but 6.5 sounds about right. I feel like Oregon's going to be the favorite to win that. And again, I said this a minute ago, I think Oregon's going to be the favorite to beat Texas Tech if they get there. Moving on to the next part of the bracket, Alabama and Oklahoma. I think Alabama's probably the favorite there. I think Vegas would have Alabama as the favorite, but it couldn't be more than 2.5 points or 3.5 points maybe at the most. However, I think Oklahoma's defense will keep them in the game. And Mateer, the quarterback, if he's healthy, I don't even know if he's healthy. He may have already had surgery or something at some point. But if Mateer's healthy and he can play, he's the right type of quarterback to beat Alabama. Alabama, since before Saban was the coach, it's the running quarterbacks that kind of give them an issue. And I think Oklahoma could beat Alabama. I'm going to root for Oklahoma. I like legitimately going to root for Oklahoma. They're probably, and I've talked about this before, especially with some Oklahoma fans. I resonate with Oklahoma fans quite a bit because we both hate Texas. And other than that, I mean, Oklahoma showed up and they were confident in themselves. Even when Baker Mayfield was there before they were in the SEC, they were confident in those games. Should have been. They were good. But even when they showed up to the SEC, Texas was arrogant about everything. And that's part of the reason why I'm glad they're not in this college football bracket. Their fans were kind of arrogant. They just, they wanted the horns down penalty. Get over yourselves. I kind of like Oklahoma, and I would love to see them beat Alabama. I would love it. Now on to Tulane, Ole Miss. We talked about this for just a second. Y'all have to excuse me. I've got a nose hair that's bothering the crap out of me. Tulane, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to be the favorite. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb when I say that. But I feel like Ole Miss is going to be the favorite. And if it's anything more than, if it's 7.5 or more points, you may want to look at Tulane on that one. I really feel like they've got an opportunity to show up, play a team that's going to be kind of defeated mentally. I mean, their coach is up and gone. They know half their players are going to be up and gone. Ole Miss may have a hard time getting up for this game. I think Tulane's got a chance to win that. And then moving on to the bottom end of the bracket, Miami and Texas A&M. I think Miami, I don't know. I really don't know who's going to win that. And it doesn't matter because Ohio State beats both of those teams by 13 points. Write it down. Take it home. I don't care. I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship. I don't care what happened on Saturday. I think Ohio State's going to win the national championship. And I think that they beat either Miami or Texas A&M by at least 10, maybe 13 points. Tulane and Ole Miss, this is kind of like the Ohio State problem. whoever wins that game has to go to Georgia or has to play Georgia. I don't think either one of them are going to beat Georgia. The Alabama, Oklahoma, Indiana trio right there, I mean, I think any one of those three teams could pop out at the other end of that. I would absolutely hate for it to be Alabama, but there's a real possibility it could be that. And then, of course, again, James Madison, Oregon up the top, and the winner of that will play Texas Tech. We're almost out of time, but before we do that, we're going to talk about the one game of the week, and it's going to have to be my lock of the week. Army versus Navy. Go Army, beat Navy. Navy 6.5-point favorites. I'm taking Army to stick within that. These games, this is the biggest rivalry football game on planet Earth. Ohio State, Michigan fans are going to be mad I said that. But these guys care more about this game than any other athletic event that they'll do. And I just, I know Navy's had a great year. They are 9-2. I think they've got an opportunity here. I mean, maybe Navy wins this thing running away 20, 25 points. I just don't see it. I think Army's going to stick right with them. And I think they're going to stay within a touchdown. So that's my lock. I'm taking Army. Give me Army and the points. Army at 6-5, Navy at 9-2. That game is going to be on CBS, probably Channel 5 if you're anywhere in my area. Channel 5, CBS, 2 p.m., the only football game of the week. That's all I got. I did kind of ramble a little bit there, only because, like I said, there wasn't as much football. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I've got my bracket right here. I've got last week's show right there. I want to say I appreciate all of y'all that come and watch every week. If you've got anything you want to say, I don't always see it on the Dixon Post or the Main Street Media Facebook channel. I'll have to go back through my personal account and actually look at some of the comments. But if you're in there and you want to say anything, shoot me a comment. We'll have even less football to talk about next week, but we're going to talk about something. So y'all make sure catch the Army-Navy game this week, and we'll see y'all next week.